The deception. Captain Varric stood on the command deck of the piercing veil, his scaled hands clasped behind his back as he studied the holographic display of the small blue planet. The Caruxi scout vessel had spent 3 cycles observing this unassuming world from the shadow of its lone natural satellite. Earth, as the natives called it, appeared to be exactly what Imperial intelligence had reported. A Class 3 civilization barely capable of reaching its own orbital space. Most fascinating, murmured Science Officer Kilara, her 6 eyes blinking in sequence as she reviewed the latest scan data. They possess nuclear capabilities and digital communications, yet they've barely established a presence beyond their atmosphere. Their development path is highly irregular. Varric's crest fluttered with mild amusement. Another species too busy fighting among themselves to look outward. The Empire has seen this pattern hundreds of times. The Caruxi Empire had conquered over 700 worlds in its 5,000-year expansion. Earth would be merely another entry in their grand catalog of subjugated species, albeit one with interesting potential as a resource hub and possibly a source of auxiliary troops. Humans seemed physically unremarkable, but demonstrated impressive aggression and adaptability. Their international communication channels are filled with conflicts and disputes, reported Communications Officer Jeff. They maintain separate nations, competing economies, and have no unified defense strategy. Primitive nuclear weapons appear to be their most advanced military technology. Varric's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. Perfect. The High Command will be pleased. Minimal resistance, abundant resources, and potential soldier stock. Prepare the diplomatic shuttle. I will lead the first contact team personally. Lieutenant Commander Nizar, Varric's second-in-command, stepped forward. Captain, if I may, something about this system troubles me. We've detected no monitoring stations beyond their lunar orbit, but their scientific understanding should have prompted some expansion. It's unusual. Perhaps they lack the vision or unity required for proper expansion. Varric replied dismissively. Or their resources have been consumed by their perpetual conflicts. Either way, they pose no threat to the Empire. 12 hours later, the Caruxi diplomatic shuttle breached Earth's atmosphere, its advanced stealth systems rendering it invisible to conventional radar. The humans had been contacted through their primitive broadcast systems and informed of the Caruxi arrival. Their response had been predictably chaotic. Emergency governmental sessions, military mobilizations, religious proclamations of apocalypse, all exactly as expected for a species encountering advanced alien life for the first time. The shuttle landed at the designated coordinates, a large concrete platform constructed hastily in a neutral territory known as international waters in the Pacific Ocean. Varric led his delegation of 8 officers down the ramp, their environment suits unnecessary but worn as a precaution against unknown pathogens. A small group of humans waited on the platform, dressed in formal attire that Varric recognized as diplomatic uniforms from his cultural briefing. They appeared nervous, wide-eyed, and awestruck, precisely the reaction he had anticipated. "Welcome to Earth," said the lead human, a female with short, dark hair, who introduced herself as Dr. Elena Cheng, Earth's appointed representative. "We are honored by your presence and hope for peaceful dialogue between our peoples." Varric towered over the humans, his 3-meter frame deliberately intimidating. "The Caruxi Empire brings greetings," he announced, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into the human language called English. "We have traveled far to find your world. Your species has potential that can be developed under our guidance." The humans exchanged glances. Dr. Cheng maintained a diplomatic smile. "We are eager to learn more about your civilization and share knowledge. Perhaps we could continue our discussion in more comfortable surroundings." Varric's team followed the humans into a prefabricated structure that had been erected on the platform. Inside was a circular conference room with simple furnishings, a large table surrounded by chairs sized for both humans and the taller Caruxi visitors. Refreshments had been prepared, analyzed by Caruxi scanners, and found compatible with their biology. As they seated themselves, Varric began the standard first contact protocol, an impressive display of Kuruxi technological achievements, followed by a clear explanation of what Earth would gain by accepting protectorate status within the Empire. The human delegates listened attentively, asking occasional questions that betrayed their primitive understanding of interstellar politics. Your technological achievements are impressive, Dr. Cheng acknowledged after Varric's presentation. However, before we proceed further, our world leaders have requested a more concrete demonstration of Kuruxi technology. They are particularly interested in your defensive and medical capabilities. This request aligned perfectly with standard first contact procedures. Showing limited military capabilities often accelerated negotiations with primitive species who quickly recognized the futility of resistance. A reasonable request, Varric agreed. We can arrange a demonstration aboard our vessel. However, due to security protocols, we would need to relocate to one of your remote facilities. Our ship cannot land on your surface. Dr. Cheng nodded. We have prepared a facility in an isolated region called Antarctica. It's our southernmost continent, largely uninhabited, where we can observe your technology without public interference. 2 days later, after obtaining the expected approval from his superiors, Varric found himself in the most desolate landscape he had ever encountered. The Antarctic Research Station appeared primitive, metal structures barely rising above the endless ice. Perfect for a controlled demonstration, where the humans would witness Kuruxi power firsthand. The Kuruxi shuttle landed on a designated pad near the facility. As Varric and his team disembarked, they were met by a smaller delegation this time. Dr. Cheng and 4 other humans dressed in heavy cold weather gear. This way, please. Dr. Cheng guided them toward the largest structure. We've prepared a specialized chamber for your demonstration. The interior of the facility was surprisingly warm. They walked through several security checkpoints, each more sophisticated than the last, an unexpected level of organization for such a supposedly primitive installation. Varric's threat assessment systems detected nothing unusual, but a growing sense of disquiet settled in his secondary nervous system. How many personnel are stationed at this facility? He inquired casually. Just the essential staff, Dr. Cheng replied smoothly. About 50 researchers and support personnel. They entered a large circular chamber with metallic walls and a high ceiling. At the center stood a raised platform surrounded by what appeared to be monitoring equipment. The door sealed behind them with a pneumatic hiss that seemed unnecessarily robust for a research station. This is our primary research chamber, Dr. Cheng explained, designed for maximum containment and observation. Please, feel free to prepare your demonstration. Varric stepped onto the platform, motioning for his officers to display the selected Kuruxi technologies. Medical nanites capable of rapid healing, portable energy fields, and a small defensive weapon that could disintegrate targeted materials without damaging surrounding objects. As his officers arranged their equipment, Varric noticed a subtle change in the humans' demeanor. Their earlier nervousness had vanished, replaced by a calm alertness that seemed out of character for primitives about to witness advanced alien technology. Dr. Cheng stepped forward. Before you begin, Captain Varric, I believe we should be honest with each other. She touched a control on her wrist, and the chamber transformed. The metallic walls became transparent, revealing a vast underground complex extending in all directions. Not a small research station, but an enormous military installation teeming with activity. Soldiers in advanced combat suits moved with precision around sophisticated weapons platforms. Sleek aircraft unlike anything Varric had observed in Earth's skies stood ready in massive hangars. What is this? Varric demanded, his crest rising in alarm. Dr. Cheng's diplomatic smile remained, but her eyes had hardened. This, Captain, is humanity's real face. The divided, primitive world you've been observing is a carefully maintained facade, one we've presented to the galaxy for the past century. On hidden signals, panels in the chamber floor slid open, and advanced weapon systems rose silently into position, targeting the Kuruxi delegation. You see, We detected your Empire's scout probes entering our outer system decades ago. Dr. Cheng continued. We've been studying you for far longer than you've been studying us. We know about the Kuruxi Empire and its pattern of conquest. Varric's mandibles clicked rapidly in distress. Impossible. Your technological level is precisely what we wanted you to see. Dr. Cheng finished for him. Our actual development follows a different path than most species. We discovered quantum dimensional technology nearly a century ago, but maintained the appearance of a divided, primitive world as a defensive strategy. A new holographic display activated, showing the piercing veil in orbit, surrounded by dozens of previously invisible Earth vessels that had somehow approached without detection. Your ship is currently contained, Dr. Cheng informed him. We could destroy it, but we prefer a diplomatic solution. Varric's mind raced. Every scan, every observation had indicated Earth was defenseless. How could they have hidden this level of advancement? The implications were staggering, not just for this mission, but for the Empire's entire expansion strategy. What do you want? He asked, his translator barely able to modulate the stress harmonics in his voice. Dr. Cheng's expression softened slightly. The same thing any species wants when confronted by a vast, conquering empire, to be left alone. But we understand the realities of galactic politics. We propose a treaty, one that recognizes Earth and the entire Sol system as sovereign territory, with mutual non-aggression guarantees. The Empire does not negotiate with species capable of encrypting their entire technological development in quantum dimensions your sensors cannot detect. Dr. Cheng interrupted. I think they might make an exception. A human officer approached, offering a data tablet. These are our terms. Your communications array remains functional. You may contact your superiors. We'll await their response. As Varric accepted the tablet, the full gravity of the situation dawned on him. The Kuruxi Empire had encountered something unprecedented. A species that had anticipated first contact and prepared for it not with primitive awe, but with strategic deception on a planetary scale. For the first time in his distinguished career, Captain Varric realized he had severely underestimated an opponent, and he suspected the Empire was about to learn the same painful lesson. The Reckoning. Admiral Zexet stood on the command bridge of the Imperial Vanguard, flagship of the Kuruxi 8th Fleet, his massive frame casting long shadows across the tactical displays. The holographic representation of the Sol system rotated slowly before him, with Earth highlighted as the primary objective. Still no response from Captain Varric's team. He demanded, his voice rumbling through the bridge. Negative, Admiral, replied his communications officer. We received their initial contact report and the follow-up regarding the demonstration at the human facility. Nothing since then. Zexet's crest rippled with irritation. 48 hours of silence is unacceptable. Prepare the fleet for transition to the inner system. We will ascertain the situation personally. Behind him, strategic advisor Mechtil cleared her throat, a gesture of respectful disagreement. Admiral, if I may. Captain Varric's last transmission mentioned unusual patterns in human development. Perhaps caution is warranted. Caution. Zexet turned all four eyes toward her, against a Class 3 civilization that hasn't established colonies on its own satellite. The piercing veil is a scout vessel with minimal combat capabilities. If these humans have somehow interfered with our diplomatic mission, they must learn the consequences. The 8th Fleet comprised 27 warships, from nimble destroyers to the massive dreadnought that served as their flagship. It was an overwhelming force designed to subjugate worlds far more advanced than Earth. Within hours, the fleet had assembled at the jump point and prepared for faster-than-light transit to the inner Sol system. What they didn't know was that their movements were being monitored through subspace detection grids that operated on principles the Kuruxi had never encountered. Deep within Cheyenne Mountain Complex, now the primary headquarters of Earth's Unified Defense Command, General Maya Okafor watched the Kuruxi fleet preparations on displays that showed multiple dimensional layers simultaneously. They're coming in force, she observed to the assembled leadership. As expected. Dr. Cheng nodded, her expression grim. Captain Varick transmitted our terms to his superiors before we isolated their communications. They'd chosen military response over diplomacy. Conventional pattern for an expansionist empire, commented Fleet Admiral Jensen, studying the tactical displays. Their historical success rate has eliminated the need for diplomatic flexibility. General Okafor straightened her uniform and addressed the command staff. Initiate Thunderbolt Protocol. All units to defensive positions. Maintain quantum shielding until my command. Across the solar system, human military assets that had remained hidden in quantum dimensional pockets began final preparations. On Mars, massive defense platforms concealed beneath the red planet's surface powered up. In the asteroid belt, mining operations transformed into weapon emplacements. The gas giant's moons, apparently barren and uninhabited, revealed sophisticated monitoring stations and defense grids. Earth had been preparing for this moment for generations. When their quantum scientists first detected evidence of interstellar civilizations nearly a century ago, humanity had made a critical decision. They would develop in secret, creating technology along different principles than conventional interstellar species, and present a deliberately primitive facade to any watching eyes. The Karuxi 8th Fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel near Jupiter's orbit, their massive ships immediately beginning active scans of the system. Admiral Zexit focused his attention on Earth, still appearing as an undefended world with primitive satellites and a single small space station. Any response from the piercing veil? He demanded. Negative, Admiral, came the response. We're detecting the vessel in high Earth orbit, but it's not responding to hails. Life signs. Inconclusive at this range. There appears to be minimal power signature. Zexet's crest flattened against his skull, a sign of growing concern. Approach the inner system at combat readiness. Alert all vessels to prepare boarding parties for the piercing veil and planetary assault teams for the surface. As the Karuxi fleet moved inward, they detected nothing unusual, exactly as Earth intended. The massive warships approached Mars orbit with absolute confidence, their weapons systems hot but unused, expecting no resistance. In the Antarctic facility, Captain Varick watched the holographic display showing his fleet's approach with a mixture of dread and grim fascination. After witnessing Earth's true capabilities, he had attempted to warn Admiral Zexet, but the humans had allowed only his initial transmission, the one containing their diplomatic terms, to reach the fleet. Your admiral has made his choice, Dr. Cheng observed, standing beside the captive Karuxi officer. I'm sorry it came to this. You don't understand, Varick replied, his translator struggling to convey his emotional harmonics. The Empire has never failed in a conquest. They don't know how to retreat. Dr. Cheng's expression remained compassionate but resolute. Then they will learn today. On the command bridge of the Imperial Vanguard, a junior sensor officer suddenly straightened in alarm. Admiral, I'm detecting energy spikes throughout the system. Before Zexet could respond, the seemingly empty space around his fleet transformed. Massive structures appeared from nowhere, orbital platforms around Mars, weaponized satellites near Earth, and advanced defense systems on moons they had dismissed as barren rocks. Most shocking was the appearance of an enormous human fleet between Mars and Earth, ships that had been completely invisible to Karuxi sensors. Impossible, Zexet roared. Where did they? His words were cut short as his tactical officer shouted. Multiple weapons locks. They have targeting solutions on every vessel in the fleet. The human vessels made no immediate aggressive move. Instead, a communication request came through on all Karuxi frequencies simultaneously, a demonstration of signal dominance that further stunned the admiral. The main display activated to show a human in a formal military uniform. Admiral Zexet, I am General Maya Okafor of Earth's Unified Defense Force. Your scout vessel and diplomatic team are unharmed and contained. We have transmitted our terms. You are currently surrounded by defensive systems that can target every vessel in your fleet simultaneously. We request your immediate withdrawal from the inner system to avoid unnecessary conflict." Zexet's crest flared in rage and disbelief. This is some form of deception. Earth is a pre-spacefaring civilization. General Okafor's expression remained calm. "That was what we wanted you to believe, Admiral. Humanity unified over a century ago, when we first detected evidence of interstellar civilizations. We chose to develop in secret while presenting the deliberately primitive appearance to any watching eyes." To demonstrate the truth of her words, she ordered a single weapons platform near Ganymede fire. A concentrated beam of energy, utilizing principles unknown to Kuruxi science, lanced out and precisely severed the communication array from one of the smaller Kuruxi vessels without damaging any other systems. "That was a measured demonstration," General Okafor continued. "We have studied Kuruxi technology extensively and calibrated our weapons accordingly. We have no desire for conflict, but we will defend our system if necessary." Admiral Zexet found himself in an unprecedented situation. His fleet, designed to overwhelm worlds far more advanced than Earth had appeared to be, was surrounded by technology he couldn't understand, operating on principles his sensors barely detected. "How?" he demanded. "How have you hidden this level of development?" "Quantum dimensional technology," General Okafor explained. "Our scientific development took a different path than most species. We exist partially in dimensions your conventional sensors cannot detect." In the Antarctic facility, Captain Varick watched the exchange with growing understanding. The humans had created the perfect trap, not through superior firepower, though they clearly possessed that as well, but through strategic deception on a planetary scale. Dr. Cheng touched his arm gently. "We don't want war, Captain. We never did. But we've observed enough conquest-oriented empires to know that appearing weak is an invitation to invasion." After tense negotiations, Admiral Zexet agreed to a temporary cessation of hostilities. The diplomatic team was returned to the fleet, and representatives from Earth's unified government presented formal terms for interspecies relations, mutual recognition, non-aggression pacts, and restricted trade agreements with strict monitoring provisions. 6 months later, the Kuruxi High Council reluctantly signed the first treaty in imperial history that acknowledged another species as equals rather than subjects. Earth had forced a paradigm shift that rippled through galactic politics. Captain Varick, now serving as the Empire's first ambassador to Earth, stood on a balcony overlooking New Geneva, the headquarters of Earth's unified government. The city gleamed with architecture that blended traditional human styles with quantum technology. Buildings that existed simultaneously in multiple dimensions, energy systems that drew power from subspace, still adjusting to our real world. Asked Dr. Cheng, now appointed as Earth's diplomatic liaison to the Kuruxi. "It remains disconcerting," Varick admitted. "My entire career was built on certainty, the certainty of imperial superiority, the predictable patterns of developing species. Your world shattered those certainties." "Perhaps that's not entirely negative," Dr. Cheng suggested. "The Kuruxi Empire has signed 3 new mutual recognition treaties with other species since our encounter. Your expansion has slowed, but your diplomatic corps has grown." Varick's crest rippled in the equivalent of a thoughtful nod. "The High Council is still adapting to the concept that some worlds cannot be conquered, that some species must be engaged as equals. And humanity. You remain an enigma. Other species develop space travel, then colonies, then defensive systems in predictable patterns. You hid your entire technological evolution behind a facade of division and primitive development. It's unprecedented." Dr. Cheng smiled. "We had good teachers, your own history. We studied how empires expand, how they identify targets, what triggers their aggression. Then we designed our civilization to avoid those triggers while developing our strength in secret. As spacecraft from dozens of worlds moved through Earth's atmosphere, diplomatic missions, cultural exchanges, and carefully monitored trade vessels. Varric contemplated how drastically one species had altered the course of galactic politics. The Carixi Empire had encountered many worlds in its 5,000-year expansion. It had conquered advanced civilizations with vast fleets and sophisticated weapons, but it had never before encountered a species that had anticipated first contact and prepared for it with such strategic foresight. Humanity had revealed a new path to galactic significance, not through conquest or submission, but through patience, deception, and the wisdom to hide their true strength until the perfect moment. And the galaxy would never be the same again.